What is up, guys? In today's video we're going to talk about augments potentially returning in chapter 5 because we do have information from Epic Games themselves that came out a few weeks ago, but I still get asked about this pretty regularly. So in this video I'm going to talk about like the news we have for augments, what augments are for those of you who started playing in chapter 5, and kind of what I would prefer to happen and what I think of augments. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below if you would like augments to return, how you would like them to be changed if they do return, or if you would rather just not have them in the game. So in chapter 5, since kind of the moment it came out, a lot of players expected augments to return this season because there is a section for them in like the quest and collection tab in the menus. And earlier on in the season, if I remember correctly, it said that they would be coming soon. But now if you go to this section of the menus, it's just basically blank. And there was also weekly challenges and milestone challenges that would require you to activate augments that were either like swapped out shortly after the challenges dropped, or like recently, or like kind of when they said that, when Epic kind of talked about it, they removed these challenges as well. And there was an entire list of leaked augments for this season, so they were definitely coming at some point. And there's a lot of people in the community that look at leaks, and like anytime there's a leak for something that, you know, doesn't come out right away, or, you know, plans change, people look at that and they're like, oh, this was entirely made up. But leaks are leaked because they're not confirmed yet. There's a lot of things in Fortnite that have leaked and then ended up coming years later. For example, weapon mods, which released in chapter 5, I think have been leaked and rumored since chapter 2. Like, it was years and years before they dropped. And a few weeks ago, when the Metal Gear update dropped, Fortnite status posted this, which said, while we reevaluate augments in Fortnite, we've removed the Activate Augments Milestones challenge and are updating the collection tab to reflect this. So they were 100% planned to be coming at some point. It wasn't just like an accident that the challenges were there. The list of potential augments wasn't just like completely fabricated and made up. This Fortnite status account is an Epic ran account that kind of responds to player feedback and bugs and kind of posts things like this. And I know not everybody has, you know, time to keep up with every post and stay as up to date, and that's kind of why I'm making this video, because I still get asked pretty regularly in comments or when I'm streaming, like, yo, where are augments, when are augments coming? We don't know at this point. Fortnite said they're reevaluating, and kind of like I said, this confirms from Fortnite status, or from Fortnite themselves, that they were meant to come at some point, but it's kind of up in the air right now whether or not they will. And they're thinking about changing something with augments themselves, maybe, or how you get them, or how they work, or just, you know, playing out whether or not they want them in the game. And at this point, as of the time I'm recording this video, there's 19 days left in Chapter 5 Season 1, and there's only one major update left this season that is going to be coming out later this week. So at this point, I don't really think we'll see them in Chapter 5 Season 1. You know, I could be wrong, and that maybe we'll get them this week, but kind of my expectation now is like, if you're going to drop it this late in the season, you might as well just save it for next season. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might as well have it as like new content in season 2 rather than dropping it a few weeks, or like towards the tail end of season 1. And not everybody thinks like that. A lot of people would say just like add it doesn't matter. But like, if you're Fortnite themselves and you're trying to advertise and get people on the new season, maybe augments are one of the ways that could happen. So kind of, and that's how a lot of things have been in Fortnite. So at this point, I don't expect them in Chapter 5 Season 1. We might not get them in Chapter 5 at all, or we might end up getting them next season. But I would be leaning more towards not having them at all, or having them next season maybe, or a future season, rather than getting them within the final few weeks of Chapter 5 Season 1. So that's kind of my expectation. And if you guys don't know what augments are, because I know I have a lot of viewers that started playing in Chapter 5 just from like reading comments and stuff, they were basically like nice little bonuses or perks that you could get at different stages throughout the game. And everyone would get a new augment at the same time. So it'd be like, maybe in like first zone you'd get one, second zone you'd get another, third zone, etc. You'd get four during the course of the game. I don't think it worked exactly like the timeline I laid out. I could be a bit off on that, but the point stands that like you would get it at a certain time in the match, and everybody in the match would get it at exactly the same time, and you would get a selection of 2 random augments. And you would be able to pick one, or you could re-roll using 100 gold and get a selection of 2 more augments. It could be 2 different ones. It could be, you know, one of the same and a different one. You would basically just cycle through the list of augments for that season, or that were out at that time, 2 at a time if you wanted to reroll. And you could reroll basically as much as your gold would allow if you were looking for like a specific augment or a certain augment. And like I already said, you would get 4 during the match, and they would be unlocked for everyone at the same time. You could just re-roll to get a selection of different ones, but it's not like you could pay to get more sooner or get more than 4. And there was a pretty large spectrum of how effective these augments could be. For example, there was an augment that showed you the next zone for the remainder of the game. It would be like getting Forecast Tower, but it was just like an augment you would activate. And there was also one called Storm Mark that would give you a radar ping every time storm closed, kind of like how the Scout NPC works, but it would just be like an area around you every time storm closed. And this would be incredibly good for in-game, right? And so in Chapter 4, Season 1, Storm Mark Forecast was like a great kind of late game combo. There was also the Shockwave Bow in Season 1 that was like a really good mobility item that you could get from an augment. And then the Shockwave Bow combined with another augment that would make you use the bows faster and regenerate arrows. And there was also Soaring Sprints augment that would kind of give you a 0 gravity effect, somewhat like the Flowberry. So there was like really, really powerful augments, and like that would kind of combo together well. And then there was also some that would be like you get balloons over time, which is kind of like a funny meme thing. And sometimes people would like sit in the sky and try to snipe. But for the most part, this wasn't one that people really liked. And it would make you an easy target. And the ARs in the game at the time were really good because they were hit scan. And there was also things like, you know, reload weapons that use light ammo faster, which is a nice little benefit for sure. But it's not as like game changing as some of those other ones I outlined, you know. So there was like incredibly good augments, a lot of mid augments, and then some that were just like kind of bad. And it made it to where like you would spend a lot of time in gold re-rolling to get those good augments if you know, had a specific way you wanted to play the game, like the bow playstyle I talked about, or just if you wanted to be competitive at times. Because, for example, in Chapter 4, Season 3, there was this weapon called the Explosive Repeater Rifle, which was a really good weapon when combined with a pump. You could basically just double pump with it. But in Zero Build, if you combined this with Shockwaves and the Soaring Sprint augment I talked about before, where you would get the low gravity effect and you would be able to get higher off your Shockwaves and stay in the air longer, you could basically combine this Explosive Repeater Rifle with Shockwaves and Soaring Sprints to basically just sit in the sky and rain down explosives on people. And I believe it would hit for like 70 damage if you hit a body shot on the person. Or just like 30 damage if you hit the explosive damage, which like 30 damage doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're just sitting in the air raining explosives down on people pretty quickly, that like 30-40 damage adds up. And there was even an augment that would mark enemy players when you tagged them with an explosive. So you would have like that red effect again, like the Scout NPC does. You would have them glowing red while you're just raining down explosives after explosives after explosives. And it was very low skill in terms of like it wasn't very hard to do, you know. You just are raining down explosives from the sky. And it also kind of made a lot of Zero Build fights kind of determined by like who gets a repeater rifle, because you know there's loot RNG in Fortnite, and then also like, do you have enough shockwaves, and then do you have the Soaring Sprints augment? Because if you only have like 2 shockwaves and the person you're fighting has 6 in Soaring Sprints and a repeater, it's going to be much easier for them to play that fight out than you. You know what I'm saying? And that's like one of the reasons why I don't really like augments, is because it just adds an extra layer of RNG to the game. And you could definitely argue like it's a BR, there's going to be RNG for sure. But like when you have like loot RNG combined with like zone RNG, and then maybe even like weapon RNG if you're using like a bloom based weapon, and then it's Fortnite, so you know, like bug RNG, like do you get the sprint bug in this situation? Do you get like some sort of reload bug in this situation? Like who knows what bugs are in the game at the time, you know? Adding augments as like a separate layer on top of that, I feel like was just pretty extra, especially when there was like ones that were super overpowered, like kind of like the Explosive Repeater Soaring Sprint meta I talk about. And I've also seen people suggest that like, oh, they could fix this by just like letting you pick your augments before the match, and then it wouldn't be as random. And like, sure, that sounds nice, but then I just think everyone would just be picking the super overpowered combos all the time, and it's just like everyone would have the super good setup all the time, whether it's like the late game combo I talked about before from Chapter 4 Season 1 with Storm Mark Forecast, or Chapter 4 Season 3 Soaring Sprints Shockwave Repeater. Like there's a lot of busted combos that came about from augments. So personally, I would rather just not have them in the game than have super busted combos like that. I think if they are going to have them in the game, they should just be nice little benefits that don't really impact the game much. Like how I talked about light fingers would make you reload light ammo weapons faster. But now it gets kind of confusing because, like, not confusing, but weird because we already have weapon attachments in the game. And so, like, some of those augments wouldn't be worth having. And then I think also if you only have, like, super low powered augments in the game, a lot of players would just be bored with it and then not really that interested in it. And I do think a lot of players really liked having the busted combos. It's one of those things where it's fun when you do it, but not fun to play against. And I also thought it just kind of made the games pretty repetitive at times when you're just like re-rolling looking for a certain augment because that augment is so much better than the rest. So like I already said, I think I would rather just not have them in the game. I think it's better that way. And some of the leaked augments we had for this season sounded pretty busted. Like there was one with suppressors that made it to where they did extra headshot damage. And then I think like just some other ones that were pretty weird. Oh, there was also a time where there was like a augment that made it to where each shotgun shot you hit on somebody gave you health back immediately. And then there was also an augment that made it to where your shotgun shots had a potential chance to not consume ammo. So you would combine that with one of the spammy shotguns and you're just shooting out shot after shot after shot, not worrying about reloading and getting health back every time you hit somebody immediately in the fight. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on augment. I just wanted to kind of make this video and talk about augments because, one, a lot of people still were asking me, like, where are augments? Why aren't they here yet? Fortnite said they're thinking about it and reevaluating it. I don't expect to see them this season. Personally, I don't want to see them, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you would like augments to return, and if they do return, would you like them kind of as they were before, or would you want to see any changes? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this, give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.